Y'all, 250 episodes. Actually, this is episode 251 because, of course, I miscounted. But here we are. And today I want to celebrate by sharing 20 lessons from the past 2.5-ish years of podcasting. I'm going to share lessons about planning, goals, creativity, and just being human. So let's do this. Hey y'all, I'm Dr. Danielle McGue. I'm a professor, a mom, a recovering overachiever, and I am flippin' excited to share with you 20 lessons that I have learned from 250 episodes of podcasting. So the first one that I've learned is that podcasting is really flippin' fun. Y'all, this practice lights me up every time I hit record. I refine my thoughts. I really sort through what's messy in my own head, and I get to send something meaningful into the world. And then talking to guests about planning and goal setting and personal development, y'all, it's the best kind of connection. So my second lesson is that repetition helps. It makes things easier, but easy is elusive. So doing something over and over, it does build a rhythm, but it doesn't necessarily erase the depths of the work. Whether it has been podcasting or learning podcasting or teaching or writing or exercising, right? When you do it over and over again, it does get easier. But I think that for a really long time, I was chasing easy. And I thought that if I just did it the right, quote unquote, way, that it would feel easy. And what I've really realized is that when we are doing something that matters, things can feel easier, but they don't always feel easy, at least not all of the time. And what I have found is that the challenging moments are sometimes what keeps it interesting. That if it was so easy, I actually might lose interest. So lesson 3 is that making is generative. So people ask me all the time with podcasting, like, are you worried about running out of ideas? And what I found is actually the more I create, the more ideas that I have. And, there is an ebb and flow to things. Lately, I've been really using LinkedIn, where I've been posting the most, to practice refining my own storytelling practices. And I now see stories in everything. I'm linking all sorts of things. And I have days where I have to almost slow myself down because I will have probably, I would say, on the upwards of 5 or more ideas for posts. And I just can't possibly actually post them all, or you all would be really kind of annoyed with me. But it's been really interesting to me the way in which making is generative. And so when we make time, it can expand time. When we make joy, we can expand joy. And to sort of think about where this lesson of making is generative and sort of this like scarcity mindset of, oh my gosh, well, what if I run out? That actually it's through creation, it's through making, it's through that process that we actually expand things. And so my next lesson is around the idea that tools are not transformational unless we use them deeply. And I've been thinking a lot about all of the ways that I think there's some really great time management tools, for example, out there. But it's almost like we stop short before allowing them to do the transformational work that they could. So I want to take the daily top 3 practice as an example. If you're just tuning in, the daily top 3 practice is pretty simple. It involves you asking yourself every single day, if I accomplish 3 things at the end of the day, what are those 3 things that would make me feel satisfied, content, accomplished, whatever the word is that you're looking for, successful? And so the idea is at the start of your day, you write down the daily top 3. It becomes a tool of transformation and it just takes it to the next level. So I've been thinking about all of those things where we have these tools, but if we would just take them a little bit deeper, they could do so much more for us. So my lesson 5 is choose delight on purpose. One of the things that I was thinking about is my brand colors, and they made me so flippin' happy. And joy matters. And a lot of small things give me loads of energy and loads of joy, and they add up. And so when I was starting this journey, I remember just thinking about, okay, I'm going to surround myself with really cheesy, kind of dorky, inspirational quotes, and I'm going to put them all around. I'm going to put them in my office. I'm going to put them in my home office. I'm going to put it on the wall in my kitchen. I am just going to surround myself by like these delightfully happy things. I also really love the seasons. We're, moving into fall season, and I love going to the Dollar Tree and picking out, 10 just hokey, cheap decorations and like transforming our home with these really cheap decorations. It makes me really happy. So choose delight on purpose. The seventh lesson is something that I hold really dear to me, which is I do not think that habits are enough. Right now, in our culture, I think that we are starving for meaning. And yes, I think that some of us are burnout, we're overloaded, we're overwhelmed, and we just flippin' want life to be easier, gentler. But the thing is, if we don't have meaning, we're going to find that things are easier, but they're still falling flat. The thing that I was relating this to is when in the past I've tried to go on diets. I'm not really like a dieter, but like I might take up a exercise regimen or like a new, I don't know, meal plan. And it might cause me to lose weight, but it doesn't actually make me stronger. It doesn't necessarily change my body composition. I'm just like a smaller version of my same flabby self. And I think like this can happen that like we can be busy and have a meaning filled life. But if I do think there's a lot wrong with busy, but I also think that if we just cure the busyness without the meaning, that we're still going to be flat. So lesson number 7 is that purpose and identity evolve. So I've been doing a lot more speaking. The month of September, I had a speaking engagement every single week. And in almost every single one, someone brought up the way that they feel really overwhelmed around the concept of purpose. That purpose it feels big. It feels like pressure. And it feels like it's something that you're supposed to like find. And then once you find it, you have it once and for all. And it's like my whole life is just supposed to be centered around this purpose. And it's freaky. And the same really kind of emerges with identity. I had, a conversation with someone actually on YouTube. I've started posting on YouTube and I'm not very good at it, y'all. But I started posting on YouTube and I had a comment about like, I'm kind of put off by the concept of identity. So I didn't even know if I wanted to listen to this. And I thought about that a lot because I do think that identity feels this like abstract thing that is hard to grasp. And identity for me too is this thing that it's layered, it's multiple, it's always changing. And it's not this stable thing as much as maybe we want it to be so we can wrap our arms around it. But these things evolve. And if you find them to be big and kind of freaky, I just want to tell you that you're not alone. Lesson 8 is around one of my very favorite questions ever. And I found myself, especially as the world has just been wild lately, is asking myself, does this expand my capacity to love? And this question never fails me. And when I get stuck, it helps me cut through the noise. When I am thinking about my position on a topic, I ask myself, does me holding this position expand my capacity to love? But I also think about this a lot when I'm sitting down to plan or even set my goals. I think about this overarching question, like if this is my goal, if this is the thing that's going to take priority in my life right now, how is it expanding my capacity to love? And how do I do it from that place? Lesson 9 is that control is overrated. I think I started so much of this journey really desperate for control. I felt incredibly overwhelmed. I was in the muck of it. It felt like my life was spinning out of control and I just had no agency in it. I had no choice in it. I felt trapped. I felt bitter. I felt all of those really intense emotions. And at the same time, I really felt flat. It was the weirdest sort of juxtaposition of empty flatness and these really intense, bitter, angry, frustrated, out of control feelings. And I came to planning and goal setting in a lot of ways because I just wanted to control my time. I wanted to feel like I had some agency, that I was at least a co-creator in the way that I was spending my time. And one of the most interesting things is I did use the question for a very long time, like, what am I trying to control that's uncontrollable? And repeating that over time what I realize is how much I've made peace with the things that I can't control and the freedom that is in that. And so, I'm moving through Brene Brown. She has a new book called Strong Ground, and in it she talks a lot about paradoxes. And I've been thinking about this paradox of the tension between control and freedom, discipline and freedom. I'm really intrigued by the word discipline. I plan to do a little bit of a deep dive and research around the concept. But yeah, I think that so many people that come to me to work with me one-on-one or in my group coaching or even to have me come in and speak, I think that people are really desperate for a sense of control. And the irony is that oftentimes when you feel the most in control, it's actually when you've made peace with what you can't control. So lesson number 10 is that rituals matter. I am a huge ritual nerd, and I love them because they're not just habits. I think that habits are awesome, but I think that when we are looking for meaning, that rituals are what create meaning. They mark transitions and they ground us in identity. So that's the first 10. And I think I could probably stop here and you would have plenty of things to sift through, but I do want to keep going. And before I jump into the last 10, I do want to invite you to take my stuck assessment. So if you haven't done this yet, I'm really proud of this. And it's been wild to kind of collect the data from people as they go through it. I really wanted to articulate the different ways that people are experiencing stuck and then provide a small little ritual that would help people unstuck. That ritual is really based off of their particular type of stuckness. You can go to plangoplan.com/stuck and you can take it. It's only going to take you a few minutes. I do still hand figure out, record these results. So it's not automatic. So if it takes me like a day to get back to you, that's because I'm still doing this old school. All right. So lesson number 11 is that consistency compounds. So just like I said, like repetition does make things easier, but it's never fully easy. But I do think that small and steady actions do add up to something massive. So week after week after week is secret sauce. And sometimes progress isn't always as visible as we expected, wanted, whatever. I think about this podcast and, my first year, I could see growth really easily and quickly. The second year was actually a really hard year, my second full year, because actually how downloads were getting counted, how Apple was counting downloads shifted, and it made it look like a huge, huge, huge dip in downloads. And it was so demoralizing because it felt like I was doing all of these things and actually things were moving backwards, even though it really was just a change in metrics, but it mucked with my head big time. And I had to just believe that consistency mattered. And I'm so grateful for that because I have had a few breakthroughs recently. And I know that the same applies to my health, right? Like, so right now, I have been so good about going to the gym and exercising and even being thoughtful about my eating, and nothing on the scale. I'm not seeing anything. I actually increased my pant size too. Like from those sorts of metrics, it would seem like everything is a disaster. And yet what's really fascinating to me is I'm sleeping at night. My anxiety levels are down. My energy levels are up. I feel way more clear-minded. My moods are more consistent. There are ways that if I look at different data points, I can see the progress. So I have lots of different data points. I think that's a bonus lesson for you right there. So lesson number 12 is that your voice evolves. So the way that I teach, speak, storytell is shifted over time, and growth kind of sneaks up when you just kind of keep going. It has been fascinating as this last year I've taken on a lot more public speaking. And of course, I teach and I've actually always engaged in some sort of public speaking, but it's a different type of public speaking that I'm doing now. And I have learned so much and it's been so fun. And I do think that even just recording these episodes and doing more one-on-one coaching and doing more group coaching, and I'm, running a strategic growth lab at the university right now. And all of these things are helping me find my voice in a way that has been really exciting. I think that I just keep pulling back layers and new things start surfacing. So lesson 13 is that my mic is a mirror, and every episode, every post that I make, it it really teaches me as much about myself and how I see the world as it does about the topics that I'm engaging. Lesson number 14 is that not every episode is a home run. This was really hard for me when I was starting out. I put so much pressure on myself to make sure that every single episode was as good as possible. And I do remember at some point I was like, I can either choose consistency or perfection. And now it's just about making. And I really care about quality. I want to offer you all the very best. So, like, I do care about you all as listeners and taking care of you all. But I also have recognized that practice matters more than perfection. And that brings me to sort of like lesson number 15, which is that conversations create clarity. And I feel like I'm having a conversation with you all on these solo episodes, but also talking with guests sharpens my ideas in a way that is so profoundly helpful. I love doing interviews. Weirdly enough, they actually aren't my episodes that always do the best, but I find so much joy and I feel so much growth in having these conversations with other people that I'm gonna keep doing them. I'm gonna keep doing them. I hope I get better, and I hope that that makes you appreciate them more as I kind of develop the art of interviewing and, am able to be a little more selective in the sorts of guests that I bring on as well. And maybe that's another bonus lesson is that as I've done this, I have realized that, okay, Danielle, now you need to raise your standards. And I've been talking with people a lot more about like, what are the standards that you hold and what's below your standard and how do you let go of those things? So lesson number 16 is energy is contagious. When I'm lit up, you can hear it. When I'm tired, you probably hear that too. I also think that authenticity is greater than polish. I can't remember if I shared the story already, but I had some students giving a speech and presentations in class, and one student had got up and was really, really polished, and it was really well done. She got an A. But what was really interesting to me is that it really didn't feel emotionally connected. It did exactly what the assignment was asking. It was incredibly well executed, but there was like this lack of vulnerability. There was like a lack of connection in it. And another student who was not nearly as polished, it felt like they were winging it just a bit, got up. And by the end, our entire class was moved to tears. And we kind of had this conversation because the student that was really polished was sort of like, I don't understand, why did people respond more to this other presentation? Like, I put all this work into it. Like, kind of was struggling with that. And I've really been thinking a lot about what resonates with people and authenticity and all of that jazz. Anyway, lesson number 17 is editing is thinking. So cutting, shaping, reframing, it forces me to find the heart of what I'm really trying to say. And so editing is writing. And how can you kind of take that idea and apply that to your goals? That a lot of times we think that when we are editing a goal, when we're adapting it, when we are reframing it, that is us giving up or we've abandoned the original goal or we've veered from it, rather than thinking that that is the work itself. So lesson 18 is that silence is powerful. Pauses and breaths carry as much weight as the words themselves. Where do you need silence in your life so that you can hear what's happening in the pause? When is pause as powerful as action? Lesson 19 is that the archive tells a story. So when I look back across the episodes, I can see my evolutions, my obsessions, my struggles, my breakthroughs. What is your archive telling you? And lesson 20, celebrate as you go. Y'all, there's a part of me that sometimes, wants to get in the gap, but wants to go, oh, I thought that I'd have so many more downloads by episode 250. Like, I thought that maybe I'd be in a different place, but I will also tell you that this journey has taken me to places and having opportunities and experiences that I never could have predicted. Every conversation, every moment of clarity, every spark of joy along the way this is just the best. So here we are, 20 lessons, 250 episodes, countless conversations. And if you've been listening, whether it's been from the beginning or maybe you just found me, y'all, thank you so much. Y'all, thank you so much. Oh, I'm getting weepy. I just feel like I live a most charmed life sometimes, and I don't always know what I did to deserve the opportunity to hold space for other people's dreams. Getting to share, getting to be on this wild journey with other people, like being in a space where we can say, hey, this world is really flippin' wild, and we are going to just keep showing up, and we are going to keep making meaning and making it meaningful and find joy in the rituals and the reflection. It is resistance. It is beauty. It is connection. And I'm so grateful that I get to go on this with you all. So here's to even more connection, clarity, love, and here's to having the courage to live boldly, fully, and well. Let's keep going.